Hi, welcome everyone anyway. It's really great to be here at Machina today. It's been an absolutely fantastic weekend. And I would certainly want to give a round of applause to everyone at Elevate Sound and everyone that's been involved because it's been a great weekend. So start with that.
Woo. Nice one.
So yeah, this is the Echoic Audio Music and Sound Design for Picture session. My name's Owen, and I'm from Innate Media. And for those of you that don't know, Echoic Audio is among some of the leading sound design agencies in the UK. They've been around for quite a while, and they were founded and are still based here in Bristol. They've consistently worked on top-tier projects for brands, agencies globally. I can mention a few names because I'm allowed to. People like Google, Adidas, they've got ITV, BBC, Mercedes, Meta, the list goes on. And I'm here with Tom, who's creative director, and this is Sean, producer. We actually also have lead sound designer, Owen, in the audience, and David, who is the other creative director.
And Tom Parry, composer.
And Tom Parry, composer.
Yeah.
He has taken his seat now, so sorry, Tom. Yeah. I'll just hand over to Tom here to explain a bit more about Echoic.
Yeah, so as Owen mentioned, I'm Tom. I'm one of the co-founders of Echoic. I'm also sound designer and composer.
And I'm Sean. I'm the producer for Echoic, so I'll help out with the day-to-day running of projects and all the administrative stuff.
Yeah, and as Owen touched on, we're a creative audio company, and we specialise in creating music and sound design for all kinds of moving image, so adverts, animation, mostly short form, mostly motion graphic stuff, and mostly it's kind of in the world of advertising. We do a lot of stuff for kind of online stuff, so whether that's YouTube adverts or Instagram adverts, or we do a lot of stuff for experiences and installations as well. And we also do a lot of kind of short experimental films as well.
So yeah, I think we're going to start with just playing a little show reel, just to give you a little flavour of their work. So yeah, just to give you an outline of what we're going to run through really, we're just going to talk about how Echoic got started, kind of where they've got themselves to today. We're going to delve a bit into like how they deal with a creative brief. We're going to look a bit into like what a project might look like that they work on, and hopefully then kind of get into what's next for them, and then open it out to the floor for people who've got any questions. Hopefully, we'll do our best to answer.
Yeah, and hopefully just give some kind of insights into our creative techniques and any inspiration for people that are kind of wanting to work in sound design for picture and animation.
Yeah. So let's go back to where it all started. So Tom and Sean, what got you into music?
So yeah, for me it was kind of growing up in the late 90s, probably like a lot of people, started by buying records, got into DJing, and then off the back of that got into production.
And then I think for me, I started getting into just some more like live stuff when I was a bit younger, but then eventually just moved into the more electronic world and started going to all the fun events, and then really opened my eyes up to that whole scene and just been loving it ever since.
Yeah, and kind of from there, like, how did you actually get into, setting a little studio up and making music yourself?
Yeah, so I moved to Bristol kind of at the tail end of the 90s and did a college course, and then from there just bought like a small setup. I think it was like an Access Virus C and a keyboard and like a sort of super slow computer, and that was my first setup. And yeah.
Yeah.
And then for myself, I think when I was about 8 or between the ages of 8 and 10, I bought a guitar with the pocket money I saved up, and then probably about age 14, got a cracked version of Fruity Loops, and then graduated to Ableton, and still using that to this day.
Absolutely. So Tom, obviously we touched a bit on you being here in Bristol. How did you actually meet your business partner, David?
Yeah, so we actually met through a mutual friend. It was kind of like pre-Facebook and stuff like that, but there was a lot of message boards and sort of geeky internet forums, and a mutual friend of ours, producer called Craymon, we kind of met online. Sounds a bit creepy, but we met online, and then Dave was one of his best mates, and then we kind of like hit it off, and then there was quite a few of us in that group that started a club night together.
Yeah. And so obviously from, doing club nights, at what point did you decide you might set up a studio together?
So yeah, while we were doing the club night, I was working at the BBC at the time, and I was doing a lot of like video editing stuff. And I'd been to college to do music tech, and when I was doing the video editing, I realised that I could kind of laid sound design and music onto the videos that I was working with, and just combined my two loves, and I was just knew that's what I wanted to do. And then David was working at a radio station at the time, and doing audio production, and we just sort of decided to put all our kit together that we've been collecting over the years and just start a studio.
Yeah, did you actually rent a space to start that, or
Yeah.
that wasn't like just in your bedroom or something?
No. So we rented a space in Bristol, in Montpellier, in Bath Buildings, which is kind of like a warehouse space, just a cheap little studio. Just stuck all our kit in there.
Yeah, and what kind of made you think, yeah, let's try and break into the world of making music to picture?
I think because we both studied at uni, and we just I think both of us, we've been chatting about that was the area of our course that we were really drawn to, and yeah, just both of us just really wanted to do that, so we just kind of were very determined that that's what we were going to do.
Yeah, fair play. So, I mean, how did you go about finding your first clients and actually building up a client base?
Yeah, so at the start it was very sort of slow and organic. We were just reaching out to friends who maybe if there was a film director you knew, or someone who was playing around with animation, or I think we had a friend at Aardman at the time, and just kind of getting in touch with those people and offering if they needed any sound design that we would do it. So it was quite a slow organic process, and
yeah, you just kind of felt your way through really, and found people that way.
Yeah, and then
let it build.
over the process of like a couple of years, we started to build up a portfolio, and this was like in the time where Vimeo was quite popular. So once we started building that portfolio, then people start seeing your work, and then you get contacted, and it just kind of snowballed, really.
Yeah. And are you happy to show us some of your work from that early time?
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna show you a piece from animation duo called Panoply. And the piece is called Genesis, and this is like one of our favorite pieces from our early era.
Nice. And what was it about that particular project that made you want to show it today?
I just really like the kind of the like different sound palettes we used. We used like a lot of kind of acoustic recordings and then chopped into them, and just used a lot of different sound sources, and the visuals were really great to work with. So yeah, it's just got a nice flow.
And it kind of aged well.
Yeah.
In many respects. So moving into like obviously where Echoic is today, how would you say the company's evolved over the last 10 to 15 years?
So, I think obviously these days we have a team of 5 of us. So here we have the Echoic boy band. We have the 2 creative directors on the far left. So that's David, Tom, who's sitting with me here today, Owen in the middle, our lead sound designer, Tom Parry, who's one of our other composers, and then little old me on the corner, the producer.
Yeah, and in terms of like, you know, studio space, obviously you're not in the Bath buildings anymore, and there's 5 of you. So, you know, what does the main Echoic studio look like these days?
Yeah, so our main studio is on White Ladies Road in Bristol, and we've just done a kind of like big refurb up there, and yeah, we've got a couple of like soundproof rooms, and as you can see, lots of synths.
Lots of synths, obviously, and you know, acoustically treated. Any particular favourite pieces of gear in there?
Well, the UDO Super 6 is probably a firm favourite at the moment.
Yeah. So, what sort of projects have you been working on recently?
Yeah, so we're kind of working on like a lot of projects each week. So each week is anything between like 10 and 5 projects, because with audio you're the very last point in the chain, and people want it really quick, because we work with creative agencies, and quite often audio's an afterthought, and they just kind of like, shit, we haven't thought about the audio. Can you do it in 2 days? And we're kind of
no pressure.
No pressure. So we're very reactive. We're very fast, but we work on like maybe between 5 and 10 projects a week, and that could be anything between like we're working with Google at the moment. We're working with what else we do?
All sorts of stuff. We've recently done music for the Guinness Storehouse, which is the Guinness factory. Working on a podcast platform advert at the moment, and yeah, a real mix of like live action, some motion, just a real nice bundle of different things.
Yeah. And the great thing is it's kind of like, it's really varied. So like the kind of genres we're working on, it's different every day. So I think that's the beautiful thing about doing sound for adverts and motion design. It's like every day you're working on a new genre, which is really satisfying.
So in terms of, well, yeah, we were just talking about some of the projects we work on. Are you happy to show us some of a recent piece of work?
Yeah. So this is for a really cool creative agency in London called Future Deluxe, and it's a 3D printer. It's an advert for a 3D printer, and it's kind of like it feels like quite a boring subject, but they made it look super sexy, and they gave us a lot of creative freedom with the sound design, and I'm really pleased with how it sounds. So check that out. And then we have a sound design only version of this to play as well, which Owen, I think he's here, our lead sound designer. He did a really amazing job on all the sound design, lots of like intricate details, and it even without the music track, it sounds absolutely beautiful. So check that out.
So yeah, now we're going to get into dive into the depths, talk about creative approach, because I think this is something that's like really key. You know, kind of like, what are the key things that you've learned over the years that have really helped you strike a winning formula? You know, to keep clients happy and also keep them coming back.
Yeah, there's a few things we've definitely like picked up on and learn over just doing the process over and over. So there's usually a bit of a formula to the process. We'll start by having someone approach us and have a creative discussion on exactly what the client wants from their project. So we'll see some storyboard and some visuals in the early stages and get an idea exactly where they want their project to go stylistically. So I think in that early stage, it's really key to get basically your creative visions aligned, so knowing exactly what they want from an audio perspective, and that can be done from finding just a mix of references and then sharing that with them, and then making sure everyone's totally on board and aligned with exactly where you're going to go in an audio way on this project together. And then when it comes to production, there's a few things that is really key. One thing I would say is just being able to, when you send your music to a client, it's always good to send a few options so they have plenty to choose from. But still within, obviously, the basically following the brief that you got sent in the first place. And it's really good to be able to take criticism on the chin. I think especially in like this kind of industry, it's good to have a thick skin, because some clients could be quite brutal, very, very honest, which obviously when you've provided something that you created yourself, it can be quite a tricky thing, of course. So it's just being able to take that criticism and then just responding to it well. Also, clients want everything usually yesterday, so being able to work at a really quick pace really helps. Obviously, you want to be totally happy with what you're providing, but being able to work quickly is obviously paramount in this industry. But yeah, usually once the client is happy after so many rounds of feedback, then you move on to, say, the post-production, which would be the mixing, and then the licensing. So providing a license is always a very good idea, just to make sure everything is like above board and in writing, in case any legal disputes ever did pop up. I mean, luckily, touch wood, we haven't had anything so far, so it's all been gravy. But what I would say as well, another thing is collaboration is huge. So one thing, when we get feedback, just being able to discuss it all amongst everyone and just making sure, obviously, we're all on the same path with exactly where we want to go with that feedback. And then also being able to collaborate on projects together. So often the guys will pass a project from person to person, which can really help then develop the project we're working on at the time.
Yeah, and all our we've all got the same setup on all our machines, so we're all running Logic with exactly the same projects. So and then we use everything's uploaded to the Google Cloud. So if we're working in different studios, someone can just like download your project, open it on their system, and everything just works. So there can be a bit of back and forth, especially if people are on taking holidays and stuff. You just need to load a project quickly.
Yeah. I guess I've got a question around this. How do you deal with really difficult clients? Because we can all work with clients who are great, but you know, when your back's against the wall, is there anything in particular that you hold on to or focus on?
I think the biggest thing for us is the thing that works really well is just providing like more options. So because there's 4 creatives at Echoic, we will provide like different versions, and just giving them like a choice is a really good thing, because it kind of, you know, even if they're not into one version, then like hopefully they'll find one of the versions, they'll find something in it they like, but that can be really helpful.
Yeah, so it's just
I'd also say
keep offering options.
Yeah, that just, and also be prepared to potentially start a whole new track again if you're halfway through a project. If something really isn't working for them, then you may have to just start again, jump on a call, or just get some feedback from the client and just start from route 1.
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, I think I was gonna ask you a question about like just like you know, in terms of your work. Obviously, you've got software and hardware. Like, how does the balance pan out in that kind of day-to-day project work?
Yeah, so we tend to use probably 80% software for the day-to-day composition, just for speed more than anything else. And obviously, if you get client feedback where they want to change a lot of stuff, you have to be able to recall presets pretty quickly, and make changes as quickly as possible. So in that respect, software works really well. We tend to use like the hardware synths. We use a lot more for maybe like musical sound design, like creating textures or stuff like, because we get to work on some more experimental short films where you get a lot more kind of creative freedom, and generally you have a lot more time on those, and you're fitting those in around the client work. So they're the kind of projects where you get to spend a day just recording synths, you know. But like we do a lot of stuff for Huawei, and they want stuff so quick, you know, like a couple of days for a first pass, and then they might send you feedback overnight, and then you've got to make changes the next day. So in that respect, it's not always easy to sort of make changes on the hardware synths, so it just works a lot easier having stuff in the box.
Yeah. I think we're going to dive into one of your projects next. Let's talk us through something that you've worked on recently, if that works for you.
Yep. So this project is for a Swiss watch company called IWC. This watch was something that it was a bit of an 80s kind of vibe. So they wanted something that was a little bit synth wavy, kind of little bit Stranger Things. And I'll play you the full thing, and then we can look at some of the parts. So as you can see, we're in Logic here. We've got the film here, and then we tend to use these markers in Logic. I don't know if anyone here uses Logic, but these markers are really useful for sort of where you've got your shot changes in the film. And then you can kind of plan your arrangement around these kind of shot changes. But I'll play it through, and then we can look. Where's the?
Is there a visual to that as well?
Here we go. Get the visual up. Cool. So yeah, that's kind of quite a typical style project in terms of the duration of the film that we'll be working on. And it's got quite a nice mix of. This one's actually got quite a few hardware synths that we recorded. Quite a lot of it was done on Massive X as well. So we just got like this kind of simple bass part that goes throughout. Then we've got some chords here which were just done on Logic's retro synth, which we tend to use quite a lot. So a lot of the stuff we use is kind of it's not that high end like plugin wise. We use a lot of stuff that's just bundled with Logic. Let's get that right.
But I think that actually also demonstrates the quality of what, you know, you can get out the box in a DAW.
So that was just literally a preset from this Logic retro synth. And then let's move on to the drums. Oh, we've got some. I think we've got some Korg monopoly stuff. So this is the kind of. We might record a hardware synth into the project as well, like this. This is just a kind of RP layer. With a bit of automation at the end there. Then we've got play the drum tracks. So we've got the drums here, which is a combination of kind of samples and Native Instruments Damage, which is quite kind of cinematic, but that's that bit, and then play the sound design stem as well. So this is just the sound design on its own. Cool. So yeah, that's kind of how we go about making tracks really in Logic.
Oh, cheers. That's it's a pretty good demonstration, I think. I mean, are there any like syncing plugins or anything like that that you use in addition to hold things together, or is it not needed?
No, not really. I mean, like probably half the time the animator or editor will send us will send us a film with a track that they've been using as a temp. So they've been cutting to a track, which obviously helps. But sometimes it's just a case of getting the film into Logic and just finding the tempo that works.
Yeah. It's not necessarily as automated. You know, it's not necessarily something that's automated. It's a lot more free form and just relying on your own judgment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In that moment. So yeah, I think we're going to move on to the last part of the session now, which is really just talking about the future of Echoic and I guess sound design. Obviously, yeah, you're moving into your 15th year.
Yeah.
How would you describe like the landscape that you're operating in now compared to like when you started out?
Yeah, so I think the main thing is like this year especially it's been quite tough. I think that's probably because of like the global kind of economical situation. It definitely feels like maybe things are slowing down a bit, but yeah, maybe it's picking up a little bit now.
Yeah, and I guess in your mind, what are the sort of jobs that you'd like to win to keep Echoic progressing?
So I think whilst I've been at Echoic, we've had the opportunity to work with some incredible agencies and freelancers and do some really cool jobs. So for me, just working alongside these guys a lot more and working with some great motion designers who are really thinking outside the box and being quite innovative with the work they're doing, which obviously has then an influence on the sound and will push us to then write more innovative and some fresh music, some stuff that we haven't really heard or seen before.
Yeah, yeah, and I'd like to do maybe some more features, some longer form stuff. Really like, obviously a lot of the stuff we do is kind of ads, which is 60 or 90 seconds, but it's really nice when you get to do like a sort of short film that's like between like 5 and 15 minutes, and maybe one day like features. That would be really cool.
Yes, if there's any famous directors hanging around, obviously.
Hit us up.
You know, Netflix, if you're listening. Yeah, and I guess obviously you both are fully involved in writing music all day, every day, at least within business hours and business days. But you know that can be up to 7 days a week with a company like yours. Do you actually find the time to make your own music?
Yeah, I mean, I do just because it like helps me to not go totally insane with all the client feedback. Because it can be quite soul destroying when you spend 2 days on a bit of music and the client just sends you a 1-line email saying it's shit.
Yeah.
and no explanation of why, and it can, like, over a long time it can grind you down. So it's really nice just to make stuff without having to get any feedback. It's just like you're just making stuff for the enjoyment. So yeah, I do try and wherever I can, I find time to make my own stuff as well.
And yeah, the same for me. I mean, I don't write for Echoic, so it's just a nice opportunity for me to write my own stuff. And I think, as Tom said, just writing your own stuff that's not necessarily like an Interstellar themed song, but rather just the music that you're actually into yourself.
Brilliant. Yeah, so they haven't completely crushed your soul yet.
No, not yet.
But yeah, we've had some pretty hilarious feedback on some jobs before, and some clients just want to push you closer and closer to the reference. And it's like, yeah, you have to tell them it's not legal.
So yeah, I guess over to everyone that's here. I mean, has anyone got any questions you want to ask? And shall I come around with the mic and start with you first?
Just a question on selling yourself. So what was your first pitch? How did you get your first job? And then from that, who goes out and sells you now?
Yeah, so I mean, we do all our own kind of. We don't really do sales, but it's more just like meeting directors that you kind of gel with, and you work on a great project, and then kind of just keeping those relationships going. And we're lucky in the fact that a lot of the people we work with, they've become like mates. So it's like a lot of it's about just keeping those relationships going. And in terms of pitch work, we're really lucky in the fact we don't actually have to pitch for a lot of our jobs. We have done the pitch thing, and I think a lot of the pitch stuff it's more like in traditional advertising, and the kind of the money's a lot bigger, but like it's a bit ruthless because you never know how many people you're going up against. Quite often you'll send the tracks, they don't even say thank you. You have no idea whether you're like still in the mix, and it can be a bit soul destroying.
With your sound design layer, what's some of your like favorite techniques to use to get those noises?
So yes, it's kind of a mix really. We do use a lot of like sound effects libraries. We do, and we've done like big recording sessions, but then we'll quite often like process the sounds as well. So we'll start with like say you're doing something that's like kind of rocks and snow. You'll find like there's some amazing libraries out there, but then getting those samples into like Contact and then processing them using like sound toys, crystallizer, stuff like that. And then what we tend to do with most of our stuff is like in Logic. I don't know if you use Logic, but it has an amazing feature called bounce in place. So whatever you're doing, you just like print your audio, and then you can kind of chop it up even more. So yeah.
Do you ever record live musicians? And if you do you bring them into your studio and record them, or do you record them somewhere else?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with a Chinese phone company called Huawei a lot, and they've got this real thing about wanting like English or American sounding pop songs for their adverts. So with like really sort of abstract lyrics that don't make sense. But so yeah, on those ones it's really fun because we do get to reach out to like we've got a whole range of vocalists in Bristol that we work with, that we call up and they come in for session work, and then obviously for certain instruments that maybe are beyond us, we'll get session players in. Like once we had to record a Greek bouzouki for a project, and we got like we got a player for that. And we also actually use there's a website called Fiverr, which you can just send your file to someone, they come up with some great stuff and send it back. So yeah, it's a mix, but yeah, it's great fun when we can.
Well, one more question: how is, for your own music that you make, how is working in sound design for a long time, how has that influenced the music that you make?
Yeah, I don't think there's that much of a crossover because I don't really tend to like when I listen to some techno and stuff. I hear a lot of like sound design and found sounds, but I don't really do any of that in my own music. I'm really old school. I just like synths and drum machines, and I don't really use a lot of like textural stuff. It's just raw kind of machine music, really.
Anybody else?
You were saying like on the music side it's important to keep presets and stuff. Is that the same with sound design aspect?
Yeah. So sound design's a little bit different because you're using it's nearly always audio. So we've just got banks and banks of sounds, and it's just about kind of knowing what textures work well, and a lot of it's about like frequencies as well. So when we're kind of composing a track, if there's a lot of bass in the music track, you might kind of like avoid a lot of bass in the sound design and like really focus on the high end. And we're always striving for that kind of sound that's almost like visceral. You can almost touch it. It's kind of quite fizzy and yeah.
They had like a lot of deep bass,
Yeah.
like pulses and stuff, and then how that would clash with the music, or is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So
Do you then leave it out of the music? Or
yeah.
like,
So
is it-
sometimes we do the sound design and music in the same project, but more often than not, just because of our workflow, and especially as there's like 2 or 3 of us doing a music pass. So we start the music pass, and then we'll get the music tracks into Owen's sound design project, and then he will mix it. So you can do things like EQ the sound design out when there's a big bass hit in the music, or kind of side chaining and stuff like that. So automation, Logic's really good for automation.
Anybody else, or we?
Front.
We've got one.
Have you ever had any issues with copyright or sort of conflicts? Or
No, I don't think anything's come up. I think, luckily, we put out licenses, so if anything ever did come up. But in terms of like following reference tracks, we're usually quite clear with the client that we're not going to rip something off, essentially, but just take inspiration from it and try and also provide multiple options, because usually if there's just one track that they're following or in love with, then they're obviously going to want to push you towards that. So try and get the client to love at least 2.
Yeah.
So at least then you could find like a middle ground between them rather than just literally ripping something off. But yeah, so far so good.
Yeah. We have had experiences where clients just want to push you closer and closer and closer to a commercial reference. You know, like I can't think of an example, but some of them are huge tracks. You know, and
where
you get into deep trouble.
Yeah.
And they kind of like they just want to push you and push you closer, and we kind of just have to push back and say we're just not prepared to do that.
Feedback from clients.
Feedback.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Feedback time. Let's go. Send it.
We had one before that, off the top of my head, someone told us to make a sound more purple. So, however you dissect that, so that was really fun to try and dissect it.
Did you ask them? Did they have any like examples of what purple sounded like?
To be fair, I have said this song before, and they said, "Oh, that's obviously like Prince." So that's clearly where we went wrong.
Okay. Wow. I mean, thank you both.
Thank you. Nice one.
And thank you to everyone at Machina again. As I was saying, it's been an absolutely fantastic weekend, and I think we should give everyone who's been working here and made this happen a round of applause, because it's been brilliant. And obviously, thank you for having us. And last but not least, if you do want to keep in touch, the details are up on screen.
Thanks,
Cheers.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.